I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-Minute Convos, where I help you create a brand of your own unique real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, Brian Gawor. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful day?
Great, and it's wonderful to spend time with you, Angel.
Yeah, same here, my friend. What part of the world are you in right now?
I live in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
Well, I study how and why people give money to charities. So I listen to donors, what they're doing through big data sets and how we see them responding to appeals from fundraisers. And I also work with fundraisers on a daily basis. And when I've done that listening, I provide actionable strategy for organizations to better engage their supporters so that everyone benefits. You can find out about what we do at fundraisingvoices.com and thedonationequation.com. So I like to tell people I work with a lot of data, and I'm the nerd translator, and I can help people raise more money and better engage donors.
Hey, you rhymed right through. Did you know that you were rhyming there right through?
That's great.
Yeah, it's great. Wow, that's amazing. Wow. So who did you learn this skill from?
Well, what I do comes from a lot of different areas. I have a political science degree, and I went to a fabulous liberal arts college that taught me to look at lots of different areas, anthropology, sociology, psychology, marketing, media. And then I have a background in data that I got during my graduate education. And a lot of that comes together to how we work with organizations to go out to supporters and take them from being people who kind of like a cause to being what we call cause adopters, who are willing to give some of their treasure to help an organization meet their goals. So it's from a lot of different areas. And I specifically would credit some of my undergraduate faculty, certainly my family, for helping me learn those skills. But in a lot of ways, what I do comes from my experience as a fundraiser, and then also in other jobs I've had outside of the nonprofit sector. I probably learned the most when I was a short order cook at the age of 16 in terms of how to work with people and keep them happy and keep a business and running.
Invaluable, isn't it? That time.
Absolutely.
Invaluable, yeah. Well, tell us about the podcast, please. I mean, that's one of the reasons we connected as well, right?
Absolutely. So on Fundraising Voices, what we do is we bring in kind of key thought leaders in fundraising and talk to them about what they're doing new. We generally focus on emerging tactics to contact donors. So it's definitely one of those podcast that's going to challenge assumptions, get people thinking. And we also release original research on the podcast. So this past year, for example, we've talked with over 3,000 fundraisers about their goals, their challenges, what they're concerned about, and the new tactics they're using. So we kind of put that all together into a 12 to 20-minute conversation. We've had some great people, everyone from major gift guru Jerry Panis to a great fundraiser from UNICEF, Francesco Ambrogetti, who talks about emotional response and looking at microfacial expressions and optimizing appeals to donors, to our own analysts like Sean Shakin, who took a look at how young people respond when you call them on the phone and ask them for money. So fundraisingvoices.com, you can hear all those different areas that we've jumped into.
That's amazing. Well done, my friend. Well done. Wow. Well, tell us one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
I would say the number one thing is to challenge assumptions. So I had a career as a fundraiser. I worked in both annual giving and then working with major and planned giving donors, the people who write the big checks for universities. And when I made the transition to become a researcher and work for Ruffalo Noel Levitz, a company that works with over 3,000 institutions in terms of helping them meet their fundraising and enrollment goals, I made the commitment that I was really going to challenge assumptions, because a lot of what we do in higher education, and particularly in higher education fundraising, we've just done because we've always done it that way. And what we find over time is that alumni donors in particular are responding at a lower and lower rate every year. And one of the reasons why I think that's the case is that our tactics are kind of tired. So I started to really think about how we can challenge our assumptions, look into the data, talk with donors, talk with fundraisers, and come up with what I hope will be the next generation of fundraising tactics to engage those donors.
How does that make you feel? Definitely seeing the data and understanding the challenge that it'll take to turn the ship, if you would.
Well, one of the texts that I will often send to my partner is I just say brain hurts. So, at the end of the day, my brain hurts. And if you spend the whole day challenging assumptions, particularly when you're working deeply into data and you're working with the smart people that I report to and work with at Ruffalo Noel Levitz, you definitely can get into a situation where you got a lot of cognitive action going on. So I would say on an average day, my brain hurts, but I feel really good about what we're able to do for organizations. So I've seen organizations do things like invest $20,000 to engage donors and receive commitments of over $4 million. So you think about that type of ROI in terms of what people are able to do if they really optimize their strategy and go out to the best, most engaged donors. It's pretty incredible because we know when those funds come in, particularly in higher education, they're really going to help us meet our access, diversity, and educational quality goals. And those are really important as we move forward into the 21st century here. Education is just so important, and the donors that support education are going to be really important.
I love it. Amazing audience. You're hearing it live here from Brian Gawor. Again, you can connect with him via his podcast, Fundraising Voices. You could always check him out as well at fundraisingvoices.com. Is there any other place we can point them to?
Absolutely. You can see my blogs and some of the information that I look at on a daily basis at donationequation.com. So I told you I was a fundraising nerd, so I've got that URL, and people can take a look there at some of the great information we're putting out.
Love it. Well, Brian, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Brian, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I think the earliest memory I have is seeing Superman, the movie, with my father.
Oh, this is like which Superman?
The original one. And I look back to the actual date that the movie came out, and I think I was 2 years old.
Why do you think this memory is so clear?
Well, I think one thing is if you take a look at this generation of motion pictures, what you're seeing is a real establishment of the hero icon, right? The other thing that you'll see, in particular when you look at the late 70s and early 80s movies, you're starting to see a real development of diversity in media. Right now, we have a lot of work to do in that area. You take a look at the Oscars, many of the award shows, we're not seeing a diversity of faces that we should see. But at this time in the late 70s and the early 80s, you're starting to see different colored people appear on screen, some of the major issues being addressed. And that's some of the stuff that's really important to me now. I grew up in a very diverse community. I've tried to put my own children in very diverse communities. So I think there's a couple things there. And the other thing about it is that you just take a look at Superman and this idea that, there's this kind of unknown alien that comes to Earth, fights evil. I mean, come on, every little boy, is going to connect with that sort of idea. And I think in a lot of ways, I'm still thinking about that stuff. I'm still thinking about Superman, Star Wars, things like that, as I think about, how I craft, my authentic self and in being a guy in the 21st century.
Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind? You remember the part where I think he needed to weld the ship with his eyes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you remember that part?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just love the idea of you being the individual that's turning the ship, right? And as much as it does take time, that you're doing that with the data, just like the Clark Kent nerdy part, but understanding that the strength that needs to be put in there is also part of the equation.
Absolutely. And when you think about it as well, too, particularly when we're starting to look at the current group of superhero movies, and I watch them with my 13-year-old daughter constantly, there are also consequences for what we do, right? And even well-meaning people can have unintended consequences. And so particularly when we take a look at the work of nonprofits and charities and fundraisers, you always need to be looking at that big picture. What are you trying to achieve? What resources are you expending to get there? And what are the additional consequences or maybe opportunities that you create by that work? And I think that's a really important way for us to look at how we work with nonprofits.
Love it. All right, my friend, if we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
I would say I still haven't found what I'm looking for. U2, big U2 fan. And I was thinking, that's pretty much what I was listening to around that time.
All right. Well, I mean, you're the guy that still hasn't found what you're looking for, right? Like with donations. All right, my friend, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Brian?
Absolutely.
Brian, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yep, a group of people who have worked with me as fundraisers, and I love them. And many of them have gone on to professional fundraising careers and are making a difference for charities.
Are you married?
I am.
How many children do you have?
I have a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old, 2 daughters, and I love them.
Do you believe in God?
You know, the answer to that is complicated, but given how blessed I've been in my life, I can guarantee you that she or he believes in me.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Absolutely. People that I talk to on a daily basis, pass ideas by, very diverse group of people who are willing to state their authentic opinions to me and help me in my life.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No, absolutely not.
How about 3 hours a week?
Yeah, I would say probably.
What about screen time? The phone and the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Absolutely. I'm on the computer pretty constantly most of the day with the work that I do and the media that I consume and things like that. So screen time is a big part of my life, and definitely want to make sure that I'm using it to its best.
If you, Brian, had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Brian Gawor, what would you say that is?
I would say 2 words: giving matters.
Love it. Well, Brian, this has been a great pleasure, my friend. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I would say that go out there in the world and find a cause, a charity, an organization, or an individual that you think is worthy of your treasure, and give. Giving makes a difference. It makes a difference for the people who receive your gifts. But we also know from research that giving can increase your lifespan, make you happier, and give you this incredible warm glow. So give because it matters, but give for yourself as well, too.
Love it. Brian Gawor, again, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.